Guys, I want to clear something up at the very beginning of the video because we thought that October 3rd was the registered date you needed to be a shareholder. But a lot of times that after you look into this, we find out that the registered date that they use to decide if you are a shareholder or not usually settles that business day. They use that business day to settle and kind of get the final count, which means that October 2nd, which is today, is more likely the last day that you can be an owner of these shares. Maybe in some cases that won't be the case, but I did want to point that out as I wouldn't risk it if your main plan was to receive these warrants. So I wanted to clear that up at the very beginning of the video, that things are worded a little bit odd, and that if you look deeper, today may be the last day to actually be a registered shareholder and receive ownership of those warrants on October 7th. GameStop came all the way up into this box that we had. It came into this one, tested it. All of the technicals has held up, and now we dipped our toes into it. Got a major rejection off of the zone, but also this descending resistance level. Now, this is the 15-minute time frame. If we take a different look at it, what we can see is that GameStop came all the way up and actually filled a gap. You can see this wick at 28.40 or so, 28.33, touched this wick back here at 28.27, 28.29, right? And basically just brushed and filled that gap perfectly. So right now we are currently seeing a weakness after a gap fill, but we did see all of that call premium yesterday. GameStop on the weekly time frame has had 5 green weeks in a row and is still currently looking beautiful as we fill that gap. Coming into the warrant distribution date, I do want to state that I do still believe the minimum GameStop share price will be is above $32 based on people likely or big money wanting those warrants. Now, GameStop on the RSI is still not completely overbought on the weekly time frame. The more macro perspective shows that GameStop has more room to rally. We are continuously fighting this order block. We've talked about it several times on the macro time frame. On the weekly, there's a huge order block between $26 and $30, and we are continuing to fight that, actually testing the mid-range. So today, what we're seeing should likely be very, very strong resistance, yet GameStop is still green, which is a good signal going forward. This also shows that we have room to run if you look previously on a couple of the momentum indicators, but today we'll use the RSI. GameStop actually had this big of a move following in the same levels it's at on the RSI. It also had this big of a move the last time as well. And you go down the line, we see this huge move at the same level that we are at trading on the RSI. I assume we are going to see a big move going forward as well. And you can even go down the line as to say that we saw an even larger move when the RSI was even overheated way back here. But obviously 2021 was an exception. Guys, we cannot forget about BlackBerry, ticker symbol, or Bed Bath & Beyond, ticker symbol BBBY. This is doing the same corporate action as GameStop, and it is trading at $10 right now. Still has a high short interest, I believe, alongside GameStop. We cannot sleep on this. I'm also going to urge you to watch the similar companies to GameStop like CHWY as well. CHWY has an 8% short interest, has rallied with GameStop. Roaring Kitty has played CHWY before. We've seen that in legitimate filings, right? CHWY's a big name to keep watch on alongside BBBY and AMC with GameStop. As far as AMC goes, we had these 5 tests on this channel, now 6, 7 tests if you count the recent ones, but we are trading in this flag pattern, making higher highs and higher lows, fighting for a possible breakout right here. I believe coming into Friday, AMC as well as GameStop should see a big move to the upside, but if we don't see that, that just delays it until next week. There's also some interesting things that are going down, like specific entities closing down because of the government shutdown. One of them, I believe, being the SEC. Now, I don't know the implications that will have for a short squeeze, but what we do know is that when things are shut down, especially regulatory bodies that can put backstops and liquidity into scenarios that need it, like Robinhood did back in 2021, for example. Those being down will cause brokers to tighten their risk and be a little bit safer, especially in times of high volatility, which could increase collateral requirements and overall put more pressure on short sellers. And so I just wanted to point that out there. I don't know the exact mechanics of it or how it works. I'll state that very clearly. But we are in a very, very, very interesting scenario coming into the warrant distribution date, as well as the huge momentum we are seeing currently on GameStop. Bitcoin has rallied all the way up to 120K. We are at 119, 200. We watched for a possible rejection at 116. We didn't get that. We had our next level drawn out at 120. We actually did come up and basically brush against that level, but we didn't hit the exact liquidation level at 120. We actually came up to 119,900, and this is very important. Why is this very important? Because we have a bunch of liquidations not where we want them, or I guess not where Bitcoin holders want them. We have about 12.5 billion liquidations if Bitcoin drops back to 112K and 15 billion at 105K. Now, if Bitcoin hits 130K or 131, which is where we assume Bitcoin's top is around, there's only 1.5 billion liquidations. So we can possibly see us hit this level at 131 and get those liquidations, and Bitcoin can top out and then crash, which is ultimately what we have been expecting. But I do want to warn you that there being that many liquidations down to 112 for Bitcoin is very, very dangerous, as well as the ones at 105, especially for where Bitcoin's trading at. Because we hit an important resistance level, and we also didn't want to test 120 exactly. Why we didn't want to test 120, or maybe we will, I don't know, but market makers, I would assume, would have wanted to liquidate this level to continue it rallying. Basically, what I'm trying to say is watch the current price action very closely, and we may see some interesting moves in the weekend coming. Now, Bitcoin's dominance, once this uptick decides to fall off a cliff, we can see the altcoin season index currently, as Bitcoin's dominance ticks up, the altcoin season index is finally getting a slight cool off, which would make sense. I would want that to cool off a little bit more and Bitcoin to run to 130K and then come crashing down and the Bitcoin dominance slip, and then that money flow into altcoins very quickly. Whatever happens with Bitcoin, I want you to know we are very close to altcoins having their main move, in my opinion, and we haven't seen that just yet. So watch the dominance and watch those liquidation levels on Bitcoin. SPY 667.47. We called out it dropping to 667 this morning. That is basically where it came down to. SPY is likely to fall to 666.60 and maybe even lower depending on how this market wants to hold. Again, the market is resilient. It's not resilient because of good news. We got a shutdown. But what the shutdown does is it avoids reporting bad news. So the markets are remaining resilient. And what I still believe is holding up on thin ice. The past 2 days since the government shutdown, SPY has climbed on weaker volume, I would say. And I don't know who's buying the S&P 500 up at 671, especially during a government shutdown. We are supposed to be seeing some sort of dip buy opportunity, and I still have a short-term bearish bias on the overall market. Tesla delivered a record 497,099 vehicles in Q3 of 2025, crushing expectations of 439,612. The stock rallied a little bit today, coming all the way up to a key level right around 470, which always the levels up here is a huge possible rejection level on a macro time frame, which scares me for Tesla. We got a rejection there, and as of right now, buying the top for a downtrend at this level is very enticing, especially for at least a possible gap fill to 396 on Tesla. You can see there's a little gap right here in the chart. Interestingly enough, that gap has formed back here back in February as well. So we have that double gap, which I do believe will be filled, especially with where Tesla rejected at. So just be careful. Overall, guys, that is what I got for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching or found value out of the video. Make sure to subscribe, guys. Get us to 34,000 subs at the end of this video. Hit that notification bell if you don't have it hit. The top 2 links in the description are for my Discord server as well as my custom indicator. If you don't have this yet, go add it to your TradingView chart. Guys, join the Discord. Tell your friends to join the Discord. All that good stuff. Overall, that is it. I love you all. God bless. Lottery Stocks out.